clear choice. It counts towards your benefit.
I'm sorry.
Well, good afternoon to you. The weather has resulted in a loss of Fox News at the top of the hour. You may have noticed that, and so we plow ahead as we scramble to get the satellite back in operation. We're in the studio with Dr. Glenn J. Kimber of the Glenn J. Kimber Academies. And Dr. Kimber, always a pleasure to see you, and perhaps we could rely on you to introduce our distinguished guest today.
Good to be with you, Chris. We just got in from a drive from Arizona up today, and they got storms in quite a few places.
So Arizona was not arid today.
Well, it sure was windy last night, just getting started. I'm very, very pleased to be able to have with us today Ambassador Sam Zacham. Sam is just a tremendous patriot, a wonderful friend. He was first elected to be an ambassador by Ronald Reagan and then President Bush, and now he's working in the Middle East to prevent the annihilation of the Christians and a lot of the challenges there that he'll be talking about today. And I've known him for a good period of time, and his schedule allowed us to have him come and spend a week with us. So he spent last night in Arizona, tonight here in Cedar. Tomorrow we'll be up in Salt Lake, and then Idaho Falls on Friday, and he'll be flying back to Denver area. So it's thrilled to have him here. He's going to be speaking this evening. I've got a banquet that starts at 6 for those that want to come and participate. He'll be speaking at 7 o'clock. It's a rare opportunity, and what a treat to have him with us.
It's a pleasure to have you here, Ambassador.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Once again, the event is this evening at 150 East Altamira Avenue at the Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Restoration, also the home of the Kimber Academies here in Cedar City. Folks locally here would recognize it as the former hospital building, but it's been transformed, has it not?
Oh, it's fantastic. They're doing a great job. We're excited about more and more rooms as they're adding to it. It's going to be a great place. But they've got a catered meal
6 p.m.
tonight.
Starts
at 6 o'clock. People can come on over and enjoy it, and most of all, to enjoy having Dr. Zacham with us.
Dr. Zacham's presentation will begin at 7 p.m. immediately following dinner. It's only $15. You can't beat that. You can't go out and get a meal for that, let alone have a meal and hear from an ambassador.
Absolutely, catered meal. And the thing that was interesting last evening is when we got into the question and answer period down in Arizona, people were raising their hand and saying, we know very little about the Middle East. What can we rely on? Where can we get information, etc.? Really fun.
Good questions.
And it's always good to be with somebody that gets a standing ovation. That's just fun to just be with him.
Yeah. Give us a preview of what you'll be discussing tonight, Dr. Zacham.
Well, I have spent the last 70 days in the Middle East. I have visited extensively in Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, previously in Egypt and around the region and the Arabian Gulf, Arabian Peninsula, and the Gulf Cooperation Council states. So being a friend of this distinguished, good patriot, Dr. Kimball, and being a student of the late Dr. Cleon Skousen, I feel so privileged to be in Utah, which I consider to be the greatest, most patriotic state in the Union.
Is that right?
Well, they have given us people like Dr. Kimber, and Cleon Skousen to me was a true saint who preached the Constitution and talked so much about the divinely inspired principles of the U.S. Constitution and how blessed we are to live in this great land of ours. So I'd like to discuss a little bit about the plight of the Christians in the Middle East,
Yeah.
in Egypt, in Syria,
Yeah.
in Iraq, in Lebanon, and throughout the whole region, even in Palestine, unfortunately, the land, the Holy Land.
Yeah.
We have less than probably 50,000 Christians remaining in the land where Jesus was born.
Yeah, remarkable. I have numerous questions for you, but I'd like to begin by hearing a little bit about your upbringing.
I was born in Lebanon to a Christian family, Greek Orthodox, and I came to this country to study, to further my education. I came in 1957. I fell in love with this great, beautiful land, and I thank the Lord that He allowed me to stay in America, to become a citizen of the United States, and to enjoy the many blessings of the land of the free. I was so honored that barely a year after I became a citizen, I got elected to office in the state of Colorado. Got elected to the House, and the papers said it's a miracle that Sam Zacham was ever elected in the first place, and it'll be a greater miracle if he's re-elected. I got re-elected in a district that never elected a Republican before me. They call it BZ before Sam. And I got elected by re-elected by over 70% of the vote. And from the House, I moved on to the Senate. And as my dear brother, Dr. Kimber, said, I got appointed by one of the greatest presidents since Jefferson and Washington and Lincoln, Mr. Reagan, appointed me ambassador, and George H.W. Bush, President Bush, kept me as ambassador in the country of Bahrain and the Arabian Gulf during the Iran-Iraq war and during the attack of the Iranians on the shipping in the Gulf. I was there representing our great country, and I was blessed to have served America well, even if I may say so.
These, as you've indicated, are perplexing times in the Middle East, and I think most people recognize it as such, but it's not the first time that the Middle East has seen perplexing times. What about these times is similar to what has happened in the past, and what about it is different, perhaps?
Well, since the time of the Crusades, the Christians in that region have been persecuted because the Christians helped the Crusaders who came to rescue Jerusalem from the Muslims. More recently, unfortunately, as you notice around the world, Islamic fundamentalism, the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, the Salafis, meaning those who want to take us back to the early days of Islam and Sharia law, they have become so vocal all around the world. Even just yesterday, the Sultan of Brunei, a very prosperous little nation, said we have to go back to Sharia law. And Sharia law is supposedly Allah's law, God's law.
Right.
If that's what Muslims believe in, then they cannot accept Western democracy. They cannot accept democracy a la American Constitution. So there is this big contradiction within them. They sure want some Western values, but at the same time they say our Quran, our Sharia is our Constitution. until and unless they separate religion from politics as our founders, who were divinely inspired and all believed in God. They said, keep religion out of politics and politics out of religion. But Islam, unfortunately, all Muslims all over the world cannot get themselves to separate religion from politics. Christ said, give unto Caesar what's Caesar's and unto God what's God. We were blessed by founders who said, hey, your relationship with our Heavenly Father is your personal relationship. But the country is for all, regardless of religion, and all should enjoy the blessings of living in the land.
We speak of it as perplexing times, but it's also a time of great opportunity, a time of transition, a time when old totalitarian systems are being challenged. And it should come as no surprise, I suppose, that there's going to be some pushback, and there's going to be a period of time in which there are struggles. But as you look ahead at some of these movements for democracy, do you feel a sense of optimism?
Well, I thank our Heavenly Father for the fact that the evil empire was broken down. And I thank God that America is still the shining city on the hill, as President Reagan said, and as Dr. Skousen and Dr. Glenn Kimber teach around. But I am not too optimistic with the present dwellers in the White House.
With that foreign policy, huh?
That's right. I'm not very optimistic with President Barack Hussein Obama supporting the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt when the people of Egypt overwhelmingly went out into the streets and asked for the oppressive regime of Morsi to get out, to allow the people some freedom, some chance at democratic rule. Instead of us, instead of America, instead of President Obama supporting the people's quest for freedom and democracy, he supported Morsi. And it was to the amazement of the Egyptian people who look up to the United States. We are the beacon of freedom, the preachers and the doers of democratic rules in the world. And they were shocked that we were supporting terrorism. We were supporting those who were supporting Hamas and Al-Qaeda. That's what Morsi was, a supporter of Hamas and Al-Qaeda. And then the White House was supporting them. So the Christians in Egypt, my friends, people who I know, including many moderate Muslims, say, what's wrong? I had a university professor at the University of Cairo call me and say, I was against Mubarak and I was in Liberation Square demonstrating against Mubarak's rule. And I wanted democratic change in Egypt. And he said, when Morsi came in, he put me in jail for 3 months because I did not like his oppressive ways. And the fact that he was very exclusive and not inclusive and very anti-Christian. They were burning churches in Egypt. And Mr. Obama was supporting those people. And that's not fair. This is the land of the free. This is America, the blessed land that God has shined his grace on us and blessed us. We should support freedom and not oppression. We should support the oppressed and not the oppressor. And we should support right against wrong and good against evil. and we're not doing it. Our foreign policy, unfortunately, even recently, just this week, Mr. Kerry said Israel could be billed as an apartheid
He used the word
country.
apartheid. Yes, it did.
Well, I mean, Palestinians, who I believe, I believe in a two-state solution, but Palestinians living in Israel have more rights than Palestinians living in Gaza or in the West Bank. And our country, unlike any Arab country or any Muslim country, we give citizenship to Palestinians when they meet the law and come here and stay long enough or marry an American. But no Arab country, no Muslim country would give a Palestinian a citizenship.
Last evening, Chris, down in Arizona, the thing that was thrilling to me too was a lot of people said all we hear about the Middle East is the complaints and everything from some of the talk shows in various places. And they said, we honestly don't know anything about it. And when Sam was kind enough last night to go through, here's the background of Egypt, here's the background of Lebanon, here is what you're working with up in Syria, here's what's happening. People were just absolutely thrilled for the first time, because as we know, about 45% of all biblical prophecy that we're going to be seeing and our children and grandchildren are going to see pertain to the Middle East. But you get most of us, how many times have we been there? How many times could we come in and start talking this way? And take somebody whose family's been there from clear back in the times of the Crusades, who knows it, who's the ambassador for the United States for peace, and to be able to have dinner with him tonight and just to be able to have him take the time and share with us what is really happening. It is an eye-opener. I'll tell you, it's something that we just don't have happen here in our community.
You're listening to Dr. Glenn J. Kimber of the Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Restoration and the Kimber Academies, and you're also listening to Dr. Sam Zacham, who is with us today and will be the featured guest tonight at the event to be held at the Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Restoration. Dinner is at 6 p.m. The presentation will begin at 7 p.m. It's only $15 per person, and we've heard just a sampling of what we can expect. Some very exciting, could we call it insider information?
Absolutely, because he is. And you noticed on his resume there that you have the compliments he's received from both sides of the aisles.
Exactly.
From liberals, conservatives, from president, from people in different places. And I was thrilled not long ago when he was complimented and talked in Korea. And when he said, I've been ambassador different times, but being ambassador for peace in the Middle East is indeed my greatest thing I've lived for. And the people are just going to love it.
Dr. Zacham, you were ambassador to Bahrain for a period of time for the United States, but the title you go by now is Ambassador of Peace. Talk a little bit about that work and how you go about it.
It's an NGO, non-governmental organization called Universal Peace Federation. And we have a section called MEPI, Middle East Peace Initiative. We go to the Holy Land on numerous occasions, sometimes 3 times, 4 times a year. We try to bring Muslims, Jews, and Christians together, trying to show that we have one Heavenly Father. Father Abraham is the father of all of us, and that it's better to make peace rather than to make war. And if you want peace, prepare for peace. Don't prepare for war. And it's heartening to see a rabbi and a priest and a sheikh hug each other.
Yeah.
It shows that we have so much in common.
Yeah.
Dr. Kimber talking about politics in America. He says, when they divide us, when they divide the good people, like saying, for example, Mitt Romney is a Mormon. He's not Catholic or a Baptist or whatever. Mitt Romney, people like him are great Americans, great family people, great children of God, great patriots. Don't divide us. Don't. Same goes in the Middle East. So what? Jewish, Christian, Muslim, we're all the children of one God. And if it's left to the people, despite Hamas and despite criticism of some elements in Israel, the people there are one. You cannot really tell a Jewish person from a Palestinian, Muslim, or Christian.
Yeah.
I told a group over there recently, Dr. Zacham, I said, if we get the press out of here, you guys will get along.
Yes, sir.
Because they're getting along fine, and all of a sudden the camera goes on, and now they're literally paid to fight. Now, you just got back from over there. You've been there for the last better than 2 months on this last assignment. Where were you at?
Yes, sir. Well, I spent most of the time in Lebanon, partly in Syria, and twice I went to Iraq. And the situation with the Christians in Iraq is so sad. These are the oldest Christians, Chris. They still speak Aramaic, the language
of Jesus,
Christ spoke.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I had a chance to speak at a church in the presence of the Minister of Interior and ranking officers from the city of Erbil in Kurdistan, northern Iraq. I posed the question, I said, did Muhammad come before Jesus? Weren't those Christians here, citizens of this great country, with great civilization, a great history? I said, weren't they here before the Muslims? How do you oppress them? How do you not give them equal rights just because of their religion? You are a wealthy country. The minister and the government officials promised that they will try to help the Christians stop migrating, because out of 1.5 million Christian Iraqis, there are less than probably 150,000 Christian Iraqis.
Chapels are being burned. People are literally being not just killed, a number of them are being sacrificed. I mean, it's actually religious organizational kind of a thing where they sacrifice them. Well, they do almost like scalping. And I mean, it's when you listen to Dr. Zacham and what he's going through, and then the concluding part that had the people standing last night in the pause was his plea on what we can do as Americans. Because, we can all sit back and say, oh, there's nothing I can do, there's nothing I can do. Nonsense. Come and listen to Dr. Zacham, somebody that's there. His family's been part of it. He's lived through it. He's been there since the Crusades. Now as he's there representing America, representing you and I, and saying, let's do something. And boy, I tell you, it's a thrill to have him. Dr. Zacham, what a thrill. I've known you for a number of years, and it's an honor. I've been trying to get him here for a period of time, Chris, but his schedule hasn't allowed it. I'm just tickled that he's here.
What a great opportunity for folks in southern Utah to be able to hear from Dr. Zacham. Once again, the presentation will begin at 7 p.m., preceded by a dinner at 6 p.m., only $15 per person. And this is at the Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Restoration at 150 East Altamira Avenue here in Cedar City tonight. And $10. I'm sure pay at the door is probably the best way to do it at this point.
Yes, they can. And if they are not coming for the meal, when they come just for the evening, they can come for $10 at 7 o'clock. $15 for the dinner and the presentation, $10 and less.
Dr. Kimber, this is an opportunity that folks in this area should not want to pass up. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It is maybe not hyperbole, is it?
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I'm a stranger to this area a little bit, but I am so proud and honored to be with this great patriot, and how badly America needs patriots like Glenn Kimber and his academy that is teaching the little children to become leaders in the land of the free. This is the most blessed country on the face of earth, and he is doing God's work. Dr. Kimber is doing God's work
Thank you, sir.
in his academies in this beautiful state of Utah.
Dr. Zacham, Dr. Kimber, thanks so much for
Thank you,
visiting with
Chris.
us. You don't want to miss this tonight, folks. $15 and a great meal and a great presentation to look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.